Okay, so level 3 in Objective 12 is taking that parent function that we talked about in level 2's, the very basic function graph, and then translating it. So either shifting it up, down, left, right, or reflecting it over an axis. So we're going to take a look at a couple, and then at the end we'll make some rules here. So please follow along with me, and I will turn off my phone. And then we can make our rules at the end here. So, okay, level 3 is sketch the graph of the library functions in the transformation. So in the number 1, we're going to graph the function f equals negative absolute value of x. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to graph the parent function. So f of x equals just the absolute value of x. So if you have your other set of notes with you, you'll remember that if I substitute in one, I'll get 1. If I substitute in 2, I'll get 2, and so on. Okay, same thing in the negative direction. -1 will give me 1, -2 will give me 2, -3, and I'm going to keep going. And this function does exist at 0. So notice this graph, okay, it goes off in a V. So that would be a level 2 skill. Now what makes this a level 3 skill is this negative out in front here. So let's see what that does. So let's go ahead and make a T-chart and see what happens, what that does to our graph. So I'm going to pick my favorite points, 0, -1, and 1, and see what happens. So if I put in 0, the absolute value of 0 is 0, and I really can't have a -0, so that's still 0. If I put in -1, so I'm going to have negative absolute value of -1. So the absolute value of -1 is just 1, and I have that negative still out in front, so this is going to be -1. Okay, substituting in +1, I'm going to have absolute value of +1 with a negative out in front. So absolute value of 1 is 1, and I have that negative out in front, so that's also -1. Let's go ahead and plot these points and see what it looks like. Okay, well, since I know what the absolute graph value looks like, I can pretty much guess that these are going to keep on going. Nothing tricky is going to happen here because it still needs to look like an absolute value graph. So the only change here was that we put in a negative out in front and our graph just got reflected over the x-axis. Okay, we took the black one and we put it right on top of the red one. So in your notes, go ahead and write down this. Okay, a negative will reflect over the x-axis. Okay? All right, now let's go on to level number 2 and see what compare number 2, and then we'll take that what we learned and do it in number 3. So in number 2, you've got g of x equals x minus 3 cubed. So I'm going to go ahead and take this parent function again of g of x equals x cubed. Okay, now if you have your notes, go ahead and copy down what that graph looks like. Okay, so now that I have my graph of my parent function, now I'm going to go ahead and see what substituting numbers does to this. So creating this table of values. Okay, so I'm going to pick 0, I'm going to pick 1, and I'm going to pick -1. At 0, if I put in 0 for x, 0 minus 3 is -3. -3 cubed is -27. So that's even off my graph. So I don't really think that's a good point. But let's find out what else. Let's try the 1. Okay, 1 minus 3 is -2. -2 cubed is -8. That's on my graph. That's okay. So let me go ahead and plot that. 1, -8. Okay. All right, let's try -1. -1 minus 3 is -4. -4 cubed is -64. That's even further off my graph. So it seems like I need to pick some positive numbers. Let's go ahead and pick, let's go with 2. 2 minus 3 is -1. -1 cubed is -1. That's not bad. So I got 2, -1. Okay, let's go ahead and pick 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. 0 cubed is 0. So I got this point 3, 0. Now I'm starting to notice something about my graph here. All these points are shifted 3 units over. So I can assume that every single other point from my parent function will be shifted over 3 units as well. So this graph, whoa, it's a bad line. Let's try that again. This graph is going to look very similar to that parent function, but it's going to be shifted to the right 3 units. So let's look at this equation. We've got x minus 3. If I'm shifting to the right, okay, we're going to do the opposite of what's inside the parentheses. It says x minus 3, but I shifted positive 3. And you're going to do the opposite here. So let's take what we learned in number 2 and apply that to number 3. Go ahead and graph the parent function. I'll do the same. So the parent function for this is still x cubed. So I have 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 8, negative 1, 1, negative 2, 8. Okay. Now, what we learned from before is that we shifted over the opposite units of that. So that's telling me I'm going to shift, this is positive, so I'm going to shift left 2 units. So I'm going to take this one and go 1, 2, and this will land here. 1, 2, 1, 2, up here, and down here. So I'm moving everything over 2 units. Okay, and your graph will be in red. Okay, so if it's in parentheses, you do the opposite direction of what it tells you. Okay, keep that in mind as we do our summary in the next one. Okay, so number 4 and number 5. Now these numbers are outside the group. Okay, this goes for the square root. It goes for anything that's in parentheses. These numbers are outside. So let's see what that happens to those graphs. So I'm going to graph the parent function again. So this one will just be the square root of x. So remember that's at 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, 2, 9, 3. And it's just a 1 arm, okay? It doesn't go negative. Now what I'm going to do, create a table of values to see how this shifts things around. Okay, so I'm going to start with 0 because I know I can't do negative 1. Square root of 0 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. Let's try 1. Square root of 1 is 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. I shouldn't try 2 because the square root of 2 isn't nice. So let's go ahead and try the next perfect square, which will be 4. Square root of 4 is 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. And let's go ahead and try 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. So what happens? You have 0, 3, plot that point. 1, 4, plot that point. 4, 5, plot that point. And 9, 6, plot that point. So my graph is going to look like this. Okay, so if you notice, these points are 1, 2, 3 units away. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So this number on the end, that red graph got shifted up 3 units. Okay, so what we can take from that is if I have a number that's added on to the end or subtracted onto the end, it's going to take that parent function and shift it either up or down based on the sign. So let's apply that in number 5. If I have the square root of x, so I'm going to go ahead and plot that. Okay, so now what this tells me is I'm going to go down 4 units. So I'm going to take every point and go down 4. So from 0, 0 will be now 0, negative 4. This one will be 1, negative 3. So it'll be 4, negative 2. And 9, negative 1. And there you go. Okay, so now it's time to put it all together. So looking at number 6, I will have k to the k of x. Parent function would just be x squared. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that here in black again. Okay, so I'm going to start with that negative out in front first. So this negative tells me to reflect it over the x-axis. So I'm still going to be at 0, 0. I'm going to move the point from -1, 1 to -1, -1. Same thing with the 1, 1. I'll reflect it over the x. So this point here will reflect over the x-axis, so it'll now be at -4. And same thing with the other one, it'll be at -4, but the same x value. Okay, so that dealt with the negative. Now in blue, I'm going to deal with this. This tells me I'm going to go left 3 units. So I'm going to shift every point over left 3 units. 1, 2, 3, and -3, 0, and -4, -1, -2, -1, -5, -4, and -1, -4. So I'm literally just taking each point that I've plotted and shifting it over 3 units. And now, last but not least, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this 4. So now I'm going to shift everything in blue down 4 units. So I'm going to be at -4, it's -3, 4, -4, -5, -2, -5, -5, -8, and -1, -8. So in purple will be your final answer of all those transformations. Okay, so our summary here, we got a couple different things to note. When you have a negative, it will reflect over the x-axis. If you have a group, okay, and it's like x minus 3 or the square root of x plus 2, okay, you go left or right, okay. If you go left, it will say plus. If you go right, it'll say minus. So you want to do the opposite of what's in each group. Okay, that's only if it's in parentheses or underneath a root. Okay, if it's outside, if it's like this, plus 4, or the square root of x minus 2, you're going to go in the direction that it tells you, up or down. So up will be a positive, down will be a negative. So for this one, it'll be up 4 because it's positive. Second one will be down 2 because it's negative. So the number on the outside will tell you up or down. The number on the inside will tell you left or right, but you do the opposite of what's underneath. Okay, go ahead and try the level 3s and let me know if you have any questions.